Hello there, it's day 15 of my Mediavent calendar, and if you saw last time I looked at these titles from Infogrames, now we're going to take a look at titles from Accolade, Ocean Software and Hasbro Interactive, the companies that will migrated into the Infogrames banner when they purchased them all. I'm going to start off with some Accolade titles first, and they're all racing games. I don't have Bubsy 3D. Well, I used to years ago, but then I destroyed it, so there you go. So we're going to start off with Test Drive Off-Road 1, developed by Elite Systems and published by Eidos Interactive in the UK. So Accolade at the time did not publish their own games. They always distributed or published them through other companies. So this game was published by Eidos, and Bubsy 3D was licensed to some other publisher. I've forgotten who they were. Telstar. So this came out in August of 1997. Well, July of 1997, I mean. It's one of the last games to not have a black banner on the bottom of the case. It was basically the first Test Drive revival game that later continued on with and that later formed up a whole series of its own. Next up is Test Drive 4, the first reboot of the series. So this came out in November of 1997, and it was the first of Accolade's games to be distributed through Electronic Arts. Here we are. Blue disc of the cars on the front. Dodge Viper and some muscle car I don't know. Next up is Test Drive 4x4 or Test Drive Off-Road 2. So this is developed in-house by an Accolade in-house branch, and it was published once again by Accolade, of course. Released in September of 1998. So although it's developed by the Accolade in-house branch, it still uses the same engine as Test Drive 4. So it is a little bit so it's a little bit of a reskin of that game, but still. But is the game fun? Not really. These Test Drive games haven't aged very well, even by PS1 standards. Yeah, and then there's the back. We've got Test Drive 5 from Pitbull Syndicate and Accolade again. Although this time it lists the publisher as Electronic Arts for some reason, although they only distributed the game. Accolade was still the publisher. So this uses once again the same engine, but it's just refined just a bit. If you get the idea. Released in October of 1998. And then we have a slightly different title from Accolade from this point. Big Air Snowboarding, or something like that. But it's just called Big Air on the front, but I call it Big Air Snowboarding. Because another game with the same name, Big Air Freestyle, came out, but that was just a port of a PS2 game to the GameCube. So this was once again developed by Pitbull Syndicate, published by Accolade, distributed by Electronic Arts, released in January of 1999, I believe. No, March 1999. So it came out a little while after winter. So that's all the Accolade games done. And now let's go over two Ocean Software titles, starting with Tunnel B1, released in October of 1996. So I already showed the Saturn version before, but this is the original version of the game. And it's developed by Neon, who later developed Viper, its successor title, because both games were supposed to be part of Tunnel B1, but they both split during development. Kind of weird if you'd ask me. Next up is Total Driving, developed by Infogrames. And this was their first game under their new deal with Infogrames at the time. So this is still an Ocean published game, because it doesn't mention Infogrames anywhere on the packaging, but it still sort of counts as such. It was released in October of 1997. Heavy manual as usual. And it was released as something like M6 Turbo Racing or something along the lines of that in France, and under another name in the United States, where it was published by Activision. Next up is Lucky Luke, released in May of 1998, developed by Infogrames. So by this point, Infogrames just used the Ocean name as a publishing label for their own titles, and then the Ocean name just disappeared. And it says it on the top, developed and published by Infogrames. And then here's this and the manual. Next up is Viper, which I had previously just mentioned. It's from I think it's developed by one person actually, and it doesn't actually have memory card support at all. It's just basically like a really repetitive arcade shooter. To be honest with you, not much to say about Viper. It was released in July 1998, and also released in July 1998 is Snow Racer 98. Yep, another Infogrames title under the Ocean name. And this is a snowboarding game that doesn't even save for some reason. So it's just another simple arcade game, game. And then we have Heart of Darkness, developed by Amazing Studio, and it's a platforming game, cinematic platforming game. So it's basically similar to Oddsworld Abe's Odyssey, which was also similar, and it shares the same kind of difficulty that game has, where it consists of a lot of scripted platforming events. And then after that, the Ocean name was retired after a few other games on other platforms, but I'm only focusing on PlayStation titles, so there you go. Now we're on to Hasbro games. First of all is Frogger, He's Back, developed by Sony Computer Entertainment Cambridge Studio, released in November of 1997. The Frogger remake was a huge success for Hasbro, but the game is not really that fun at all, no matter what system you play it on, PS1 or PC. Next up is one of my favourites on the PC, but not so much on the PS1, and that's Centipede. I don't have the front cover for this one, I only have the manual. Released, so this was released in October of 1999, part of a series of Atari titles, Atari arcade remakes, developed by Leaping Lizard Software and Real Sports Games, who ported this to the PS1. Green disc with Atari symbol on it. Next up is Missile Command, developed by Maya Glass Interactive and Rainbow Studios, also released in October of 1999. Because all these Atari arcade remakes on the PlayStation in the UK were all released on the same day. So this has a silver tripod and blue background on this one. Next up is Pong the Next Level, or just Pong, developed by Supersonic Software, also released in October of 1999. Once again, white tripod, pink background or something, or maybe it's pink tripod and white background this time, because you can see a little bit of white forming a curve. Then we got Cuba, developed by Artex Studios, also from October of 1999. So this one has a silver background and pink tripod. Nice cover, to be honest with you. It makes me feel a bit nostalgic, because I got this game back in 2016. The next Tetris, developed by Blue Planet Software. Released in also released in October of 1999. Red tripod, white background. Next up, Glover, developed by Interactive Studios, also released in October of 1999. They all came out in the same month on the same day, I think. And then we have the disc. I don't have the manual for this one. Then we have Breakout. So this was published in October of 2000 and developed by Supersonic Software. So it's once again another 3D remake. This time it's just a plain blue background with no Atari logo anywhere on the disc. Just Hasbro. But everywhere else it has the Atari logo on it. Apart from the back, but still. And last but not least is Frogger 2 Swampy's Revenge. Developed by Blitz Games and released in October of 2000. I already showcased this one in that Hasbro big box PC game video I did. So some of these, you've seen them before. And well, that's this selection of PS1 games done. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and see you next time for the next part of my Mediavent calendar. I'll need to get back to looking at DVDs. Maybe I could look at Studio Ghibli or Hit Entertainment or maybe my Deke Sterling collection. Who knows? We just have to see. Bye everyone.